Why are we living in two different worlds? This video is brought to you by DEFENSE of Store. DEFENSE of Store. Get the merch link in the description section. Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I go live. I'll make a video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Like this video. Comment on this video. Share this video. Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, and ladies, why do we live in two different worlds? I just want to know, and I want to make a very, I'm trying not to be biased because I feel like I'm more in the middle than most people because I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not a representative for the white man. I'm not a representative for the black man. I'm a representative for God, and I make judgment calls based on what I think without any, bias. So I'm going to let, somebody sent me this, and they were just saying this dude, when this black guy went all crazy about the CRT thing, I was thinking he was in favor of the CRT, but he wasn't. However, when I watched it and I watched the lady that came after him, it really made me think about it. Why are we see the world so different? And then I'm going to give my opinion about the way I see the world in conjunction to the two people speaking. Without further ado, roll the doggone film.
Madam President, what is the time for today?
1 minute.
1 minute.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. I want to give my condolences. Could you hold the clock, sir, please? Because I asked the question. Could you start my time over? Mr. Clockman, whoever doing it. Well, I want to give my condolences to Sister Brookins before I speak. For those who got an issue with this critical race theory equity, it's something I fought for my children. How dare you come off in here and talk about the things that my daddy and my grandparents went through, the lynching, the oppression, Jim Crow, and my kids are still being afflicted by this. How dare you come off in here and challenge me on critical race theory? Look at the word racism. This is something deliberately done to people of African descent to shackle us down. This hate, fear, mugging won't work no more. It's over with. We are not our ancestors. I got over 1,000 soldiers ready to go.
We're not the board. Yeah,
1,000 go.
All right, so we heard what he had to say. He got 1,000 soldiers ready to go. Now, I just want y'all to put this in perspective. If a white man said this, would it be received the same? I would, Stevie Wonder can see that it would not. However, he's saying that the critical race theory is appropriate to teach our children because, according to what he's saying, it's showing the racism that still occur in America and what happened to his forefathers, his father and his grandfather, Jim Crow, slavery, lynching, and that is still occurring today. That's the world that he lives in, is that it needs to be taught in schools because it still affects black people today. This is what he's saying his experience is. Now let me go to the lady experience. I think they're gonna argue and they're gonna bring up another person. All right, so she clearly said, hey, you talked to the wrong people. All right, and then this lady, well, let's go Brandon on her shirt. That's actually a cool looking shirt, man. I ain't gonna show, don't look at it because I don't want y'all to get it. Y'all need to get the one I got.
Carrie
All right.
Raymeyer.
So the man didn't go to jail or nothing. They ended up having to get the police to because it looked like he was gonna fight somebody. He looked like he was pretty riled up.
A message describing an equity training she had to participate in Fort Worth ISD. We had to rate our whiteness in front of everyone. They had us answer questions like, how often would you go without food? Well, we ate out of the dumpster every night when I was little. So we had food every night. He became very uncomfortable. I asked him, since I put myself through college while I lived out of my car, if that made me more white now than I used to be. To me, this sounds like a struggle session and has no place in our schools. It promotes division and reinstitutionalizes racism. We should all be treated equal, not as oppressors or victims based on our skin color. I've got a white kid, a black kid, and 2 biracial kids in my household. So are they oppressors or are they victims? I'm here again to call for the removal of Norma Garcia Lopez. You all have known for a month the racist things she puts on social media. She has no place on a Fort Worth ISD committee. I want her.
All right, so you heard this lady. Now, there's a lot of people that came and spoke, but these two people stood out to me. You heard the male say that, and you heard her articulate an example of what was said, and an example of judging your whiteness. And now you heard both sides. There are people in our country that feel like either one of these people, right? One or the other. Now let me tell you what I think. You know, I understand that there were black people in this country, and my grandmother told me about how she had to drink out of separate water fountains from white people. I understand that. I understand how people feel about that. However, I don't really think it has a significant effect on somebody's life today. And I don't really think it had a significant effect on my grandmother's life, other than being inconvenienced because white people could do stuff that black people couldn't do. But you talking about opportunities. There were people in my grandmother's time period that are very successful black people. Maybe emotionally it made you feel a certain way, but I don't think it was an obstacle that prevented you from becoming successful. She raised my father. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't her fault, and it wasn't my daddy's fault that his daddy wasn't there. So my grandfather wasn't consistently there for whatever reason. Right, wrong, or indifferent, he wasn't consistently there in my dad's life when he was younger. So that ain't got nothing to do with Jim Crow. That ain't got nothing to do with white supremacy. That has something to do with mama and daddy being in the same household and raising their children to the best of their benefit. I guarantee you my grandmother would have had better opportunities and would have done better if she was married to my grandfather and he was helping. Okay? My daddy goes on, have children, and becomes very successful, retires as a as a fire chief of the Waco Fire Department. Both of his sons have gone on, played college football or whatever. So I don't think that after my grandmother, we still are affected. I think that because of what my grandmother went through, that we now have an even greater opportunity. We now have an even bigger platform to speak. We now have even more attention in things that people do and go out their way for black people. And to suggest in any classroom to point out any race of something that happened a long time ago is just asinine to me. You're creating hatred and division. I mean, when I was growing up in a Fort Worth ISD school, I went to Paul Lawrence Dunbar. When I was growing up, I had a disdain for white people because I went to an all-black school, and all we were talking about is stuff like this. Was it real? Was it a legitimate disdain for white people? No, it wasn't. It was because of this generational trauma that's passed down unjustifiably. The white man isn't passing this down. The white man is improving. You know what I'm saying? Our rights are improving. But the people pass down generational hurt that don't yield any benefit. And so I had disdain for white people. And then I got to college and I realized, wait a minute. The white people that ain't like I thought they were. And then throughout my life, I've never experienced no overt racism in my life. Most of the people that are negative towards me are my own people, quote unquote. You know, so it just makes me feel like, why do we live in two different worlds? You know, I don't think it's right what happened to black people. I don't agree to that. I don't think Jim Crow was the Democrats and Jim Crow were appropriate, but we overcame that. And now we're in a much better position that we should be flourishing at a higher rate. However, you got people like, I think, the brother who's holding on to that trauma. And then you got the trauma being passed off on children where this lady's saying, what do you mean whiteness? You know, and one thing that I've learned being around people of all colors is that you are making a prejudgment on a person based on the color of their skin, not because you know what they've been through. When I was growing up, we had some friends that were white. They were poor. Dustin and Derek, they were poor. They had no money. They didn't have a daddy. And we used to give them all our hand-me-down clothes. Just because they white, you can't assume that they got a better life than me because I'm black. So what happens, ladies and gentlemen? The assumption assumes that blacks are always beneath whites. The assumption is that white people always have a better situation than black people. Because of what? The color of their skin. Not because of any matrix, not because of any accountability based on what you know, but because of their skin color. And that belief that white people are experiencing this level of inevitable privilege is asinine because it's just not true. You got to go based on individuals. You know, there's a lot of white people that came from the bottom, and now they're here. And there's some black people that came from the bottom, now they're here. There's some black people that came from the top, now they're here. And there's some white people that came from the top, now they're here. And the sad part is people like LeBron James and these wealthy black people who have children are teaching their children that oh, the system is against you. Instead of saying, I'm going to show you how I made it through, and I'm going to show you how you make the next generation better. Thank God for our forefathers, ancestors who fought that we can have equal rights under the Constitution. Now let's go get it. But the problem is, I feel like that you see more black people being victims, and white people are standing up for themselves because now they're perceived as the victimizers. And now you're going to have a conflict, a race war, a racial conflict for no reason. And the fact of the matter is, there's a lot more black people like that guy who, feel that way. And I think a majority of white people feel the way she feel. There's still a lot that don't, but there's a majority of them feel like she feel. The majority of black people feel like he feel. We living in two different worlds. And it's sad because I feel like there's one truth, two different worlds. And demonizing white people don't make black people feel any better. Demonizing white people don't make the past any different than what it was. Demonizing white people who don't have an ancestry that was here during slavery. They came from Europe. Demonizing them when they ain't got no connection to slavery is pointless. Demonizing Africans who migrated here after slavery, it's no relevance in including them in such a smaller window of debacle. However, I love you guys, man. I appreciate you. Comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this video. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.